Hey, friends and fans, welcome to Writing Corner. I'm your host, the author David Gay, author of the book The Boyhood of Cade, book one of the Empire of Elves. Links are in the description below. The book links are in the link tree, and of course, over Patreon. Please consider becoming a patron. Not only do you get not only will you support the channel, but you get early access to my writing, and of course that. And all the other links are in the description below. Now, whenever it comes to inspiration, we often look to history. Now, there's a lot of history and a lot of facts that are actually stranger than fiction. One of the courses, Ripley's Believe It or Not. But you can start simple. Start with your family tree. These may lead you to writing prompts more than you probably think. Think about the journeys of your different family members over a period of time and interactions with real people, real events. This could inspire historical fiction, historical romance. History is a way of repeating itself. Look at the American Civil War and other civil wars with before that, for inspiration for a historical military fiction. Now, of course, don't have to tell you that writing a novel is a roller coaster ride, but the challenge of writing a 50,000 word novel in as little as a month, it's quite a ride. Some people do it and consistently do it. Other people take years. How fast you write is up to you. Now, of course, researching history does take time. And I respectfully urge, respect history and the facts of history and the outlines of history. But of course, you don't have to steal your story from someone else. The best stories have come from historical events. The War of the Roses, the Napoleonic Wars, the wars between Persia and Macedonia and Greece. The Chinese have a long history of civil wars and uprisings. And of course, you have the most famous historical novel, The Three Kingdoms in China, is a story of plot twists, unexpected heroes and betrayals, and unexpected and surprising conclusions. And these are actually based on factual events. Now, of course, there's also the novelization of Genji, which involves sensitive topics. But ultimately, throughout history, some of the most famous novels have all been based somewhere along the line on history. Now, I suggest you confine yourself to your genre, but I suggest also that you research so that you know what you're writing about. I'm not saying most people aren't capable of being inspired from history, but when you're inspired by history, it's got to be history. It's got to be, it can't be history that looks like history, of course. It has to read like a novel and has to be highly sensationalized. I just talk about the overall plot points, reflecting, um, you know, towns, heroes, betrayals, plot twists, love affairs. You go back to Troy, real city, for the fall of Troy, love affairs. The Game of Thrones is somewhat based on ancient Greece and the Middle Ages in England, where nobles from the north, the south, east, and the west, and the peninsula of Cornwall and that were all conspiring against each other and all working out how they could get away with murdering each other through lies and slander. I don't suggest you repeat Game of Thrones, but if you're looking for Murder porn, English history, ancient Greece, Rome. There's lots of historical books about Rome. There's lots of historical fiction about Rome as well, so it's a highly competitive market. You can go to Arthurian tales, which, because the legends of King Arthur are not just about King Arthur. The Arthurian tales, there's a lot of them set in the Arthurian period, which is the period before the true lineage of kings, the leading to the Tudors. There's that period of uncertainty of the English counties where there was a literal Game of Thrones going on, and one of them, allegedly, and dragons were one of the players in those plots, and eventually you had Arthur, or Arthurian, who was Celtic from the northern areas above Po, there in Italy, with the Roman conquest. After 20 years of warfare, he was conscripted and sent to the British Isles for the occupation of Rome. And after his engagement with the Celts and his true fate revealed by a series of conversations with the Druid, who became known as Merlin. Merlin was actually the title of the Druid. Nobody knows his true name, but it could have been Milan or Merlin, and that's a Irish or Welsh. But those things, they give you history that leads to stories. Arthur itself is a historical fiction based on real events of how the first kings came to power after the Roman withdrawal. But they cut out the Celtic uprising against and the fact it was a woman, the woman of the lake, was actually based on a real life Celtic heroine who led the Celts against the Romans, and I believe that she was cast into the lake, and then it was her sword that was on her tombstone that Arthur had taken. So there's plot twists. There's a man in love with the most beautiful woman. He thought himself he was always thought himself a great pretender, and he always overlooked her flaws. And of course, she was infatuated with the baby face French knight Lancelot, who basically got his reputation to be known as Lancelot because he Lancelot, and she was his latest conquest. And after he betrayed her, she became a nun. Because one of the things that weren't kicked out of Britain was Christianity. That's one of the bizarre things, is the Christians actually turned against the Romans, believing that they were unchristian towards their conquests, and that they should have been more reconciliatory to their and more faithful to protecting the people of Britain rather than ruling over them. So there is a lot there, but facts, and I suggest to stick to the facts, and that is your plot outline. And depending on your genre, you can add magic, you can add dragons, you can add different, you can change names. But I suggest also if you're using fiction, particularly if you're using fictional settings, to adapt the names and try to span the events in so that it fits your style, not to, because if you just repeat history word for word, it's going to be very cut and dry. It's not going to make for an interesting story. Though, cannot stress enough that most people are more interested in the human dialogue than the action, the human interaction than the action. But again, it depends on your genre. A lot of military history is pretty heavy on action. It's like fantasy is heavy on world building. Science fiction is heavy on technology. So erotica romance is heavy on the action. So there are exceptions to every rule, but in general, I think trend chasing is a problem. But if you are trying to find inspiration, consider history, and not just any history, but the strange history, the twists and turns of particularly the War of the Roses and the conflicts. If you want real intrigue and thrillers and espionage, look to Rome, the battle for Pope, the various battles for Pope, the intrigue around the French court and the rise and fall of Catholicism in France, and the shift from Catholicism from France to Rome, the undermining of the French church by Rome, leading to the English breakaway church. And of course, from there you had the Protestant and wars. You got a lot there. And of course, you got knights. The last knightly orders were actually in Eastern Europe. You've got Vlad the Impaler, who was actually a hero to his people in Transylvania, who stopped the Turkish horde. So there's a lot. You have Vlad the Vampire, a hero, and the history goes on, stranger than fiction. Of course, in my writing, I try to draw many inspirations, not from a single source, and to basically maintain a diverse. So I don't draw from one single history or one single event. You can choose how you draw inspiration. Of course, I'm merely suggesting that how you go about things may not be the same as how I go about things. So it would be hypocritical of me to tell you for you to write when I want people to write in their style for their audience, and to the diverse stories come from a diverse cast and diverse genres and diverse inspirations and diverse styles. Unfortunately, far too often what we see is trend chasing these days and factory can't really say it's AI, but factory produced low common denominator drivel that is inorganically promoted endlessly by the media to the point where people falsely believe it must be good because it's popular, and then the ego kicks in, sunk fallacy. But eventually, as you know, all franchises come to an end. People are abandoning the MCU because it's shallow, it's immaterial and immature. It hasn't matured. It doesn't. Its characters don't grow. They're trying to constantly reset. So I hope that people learn the lessons of the failures of others and try to forge their own path. And I hope that I've inspired all of you, and that fact is, indeed, often said to be stranger than fiction. Thank you for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hello to all new viewers on X. Now, I understand the description is in my profile, so please like, share, and subscribe. I'm talking, of course, to the to YouTubers, to click the notification bell. But on X, of course, you can. I currently do not. You can follow me on X. Can't currently subscribe to me on X. Hoping that will change soon, so you get notifications, etc., and you won't miss any of my streams. Don't forget to show some love. And of course, you can support the channel by buying coffee mugs and other items from my Etsy store. Now, on X, all the links are in my link tree on my profile. And for everybody else, the links are in the description below. Now, of course, consider becoming a patron today. I have two patrons, one for my writing and channel, and the other one for my RPG based on my writings. And of course, as I said, all the links in the description below, and you can make a donation today. Please and thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.